City and Newcastle is where we'll start. That's Saturday at 7:30 a.m. City's minus 225. Newcastle 6-1. The draw is plus 350. Newcastle has one win in their last 7 matches in the Premier League. They've got 5 draws, and they have 1 loss. I'll look up for our next episode, our next Premier League episode, to look up the most draws in a season. But Newcastle's got to be creeping in on it, especially for a team that finished in the top where they are. It's such a strange way to get to a top 4 spot. 11 draws. What are you going to do? Only 2 losses as well. I like Newcastle though. I think 6-1 is a good number when you're giving me a team that is the 4th best team in the league. I know they're going to City, but this is a team in City. Every time it looks like they're riding the ship, like they just have a wonky result, and I won't call this one wonky. Like, this is a good team playing against the best team. So I'll take this shot. Newcastle 6-1. Anthony, what about you?
I'm going to be on the under 3, minus 120. This is kind of a little high for me. We've talked about this for like a month now with Newcastle and the attack falling off, and it continued again. In the cup final against United, down the entire second half. They weren't really able to get clear scoring chances. Finished that game with 0.7 expected goals. They will have Nick Pope back for this, which is an upgrade in goal over Karius, who I thought played fine in the cup final overall. Like, I didn't really, think he was the reason they lost. But I also just think that this attack is going to continue to regress as the season goes and end up, like 7th or 8th best in the league. And they're sitting right around 5th or 6th right now in XG per 90. But they're still first in efficiency and box entries. And I think it's interesting when we look at what happened in the first meeting. They went to St. James's Park, City. They went up early and they just got torched over and over and over and over again in transition. I think that was like Pep got surprised and didn't expect that. And I think now it's going to be like Pep is going to adjust at home and say, we are not letting that happen again at all costs, even if it means we lower our own chances of winning the match because we don't attack with enough people. Like, I think that Pep will go into, defend mode and prevent any real, transition opportunities for Newcastle. I still believe in this defense. I think the defensive numbers are legitimate. I think, you look at their personnel, they are legitimately a top 4 defense. They do a good job, the things that I look for. But again, it's just this attack is like not that good. I mean, it's, Callum Wilson and St. Maximin and Almiron, who under no circumstance should be a top 5 Premier League attack. So I'm going to keep
just
selling
signed that fat new deal, man, with a big smile on his face. And he's playing Jack Grealish, who made fun of him. And, that's maybe an interesting angle for, if you're looking for a narrative player prop, is a Almiron anytime goal scorer going up against Jack Grealish. But I think the defense is the point of this bet, right? Like, they've allowed 15 goals this season.
Mm-hmm.
They've allowed 4, I think, in their last 7. 2 of them came in the same game to Liverpool. Just make it a rock fight. Win the coin flip. That's my angle.
The draws. I mean, the draws are because their attack just isn't good enough.
Yeah,
they've had some games where they put up gaudy numbers. They get ahead. We talked about this. Like, you get ahead.
Chris Wood back.
You get out in transition, and then you kind of just like get a bunch of big chances that inflate your numbers late. But like, they've played in a lot of grinders, just like low scoring, not a lot of chances at either end. I mean, we even saw that games against like Brighton and Palace. I don't think they'll have a ton of possession here. So like they could do the same thing and like create a bunch of transition, but I don't think Pep's going to let it happen. So I like the under.
BJ, what are you thinking?
Well, first off, Michael, I have your answer to the most draws in a season since we switched to 38 games. It's Newcastle, 2003, 2004, 17 draws in a season. And here's another trivia question. Which club has the most draws ever throughout the entirety of the English top flight history? I'll give you a hint. It's one of our favorite teams.
Yeah, as I say,
Everton.
Just
Everton.
Yeah.
320.
I think they also are the only team to ever lose 100 times to the same team in the top flight as well.
Gotcha. Okay,
Who's the team?
Arsenal.
I
believe
Arsenal's one of the only English Premier League clubs never to be relegated as well. So I think this is an incredibly tactical, from a tactical standpoint, incredibly interesting match. So What Newcastle likes to do, like we've talked about many times, is they're much better playing off the ball, playing transitionally, setting up their pressing traps, which is how they were effective against City. Like you mentioned, Anthony, they had a pass per defensive action of 11.1, and they forced 10 high turnovers against City, where Pep was just trying to play his normal, slow build-up style play, not really expecting them to do that, and they hit them so many times. And we've seen from City, especially against Arsenal in the second meeting, that Pep doesn't have to be this just, all right, we're playing out of the back and that's all we're doing. Like he showed against Arsenal, they can play the ball long and they can essentially nullify a high press. And that's exactly what Manchester United did against Newcastle in that cup final. David De Gea, who, I mean, traditionally is not a good passer from the goalkeeper position, but 60% of his passes went into the Newcastle half of the pitch. Just goes to show you that United was like, all right, we're not even going to let you guys set up your high press. We're just going to play it long and we're going to play 50-50 balls. And I don't know what Pep's going to do. If he does that, like you obviously leave yourself open to not retaining too much possession, like the match against Arsenal. City only had 37% possession. So do they just give Newcastle the ball and say, hey, no, you can try to come break us down and we'll be the ones that are playing in transition? Because City can be a good transitional team. It's why they're so good, and why Pep is such a great manager is because they can play so many different styles. They don't have to be this just like pragmatic build-up style play. It's the conservative play, and it's what has won them Premier League titles. But in this specific matchup, I think it would be better for them to start just playing long balls. And I mean, listen, I do like Newcastle in this matchup. I think it is a good buy low opportunity, but the price just isn't there for me right now. I mean, City only at minus 215 at home is quite low given the prices we've seen at City over the years. This is also going to be their 7th match in less than 20 days. They didn't fully rotate against Bristol City in the FA Cup on Tuesday. So now we're looking at a situation where it's basically been pretty close to the same starting 11 for about 3 weeks now. So I'd love to get Newcastle at plus 1.5. I really would, but it's just not there right now. So I have to pass. If Newcastle plus 1.5 gets down to minus 120, I will play that. But outside of that, I think this is a pass. I think the price on City is too low, which happened against Bournemouth too. I mean, City, what'd they close at? Minus 220, minus 215. Like it was crazy how low they went on the road against Bournemouth. And I get it. Like there's a bunch of fixture pileup and Pep did a very different lineup. But yeah, I think if City does their normal pragmatic style build-up play and Newcastle is able to set up their pressing traps, Newcastle is very, very live here. If City decides they're not going to do that and they're not going to let Newcastle set up those traps, it's going to be just as tough, just like it was in the cup final for Newcastle.